whole show you did with Maya?
Assassinating my character.
Okay. I'm not going to fight someone to believe me when I'm telling my truth.
You gonna tell me I'm your #1 connection? I ain't chit chat on every man. That.
Whatever you want to put.
Oh, my mic. Sorry, guys. Listen, welcome to Little Black Button 91. Listen, crazy episode. And I'll tell you why it's crazy. Because I feel like this situation is a real one, right? What happened between Laron and what happened between Kosheia is a real situation. Here's what I think is a real situation. Everybody is trying to clamor for a little bit of control and a little bit of power. And not in a negative way. This is not about trying to maybe elicit some power over someone else. More a case of nobody wants to get pulled in a particular direction and get played, right? And so when people are afraid of getting played, they play some games. And then in amongst that, they do some behaviors that cause issues within the relationship that they're building. And then we ask the question, is it the chicken or is it the egg? Whose situation or whose problem or who said what first caused us to be in this situation that we're actually in? So I feel like with Laron and Kosheia, I actually see the problems. Like I really do. And I'm going to focus more on them tonight. Today, I'm going to be here for an hour or less and just break down their situation, play clips from there. Number two, listen, I think Chad's a great guy, but I'm gonna need him to step off. I hate when guys do this kind of stuff. When two people are talking and you immediately get onto the woman's side, I look at you sideways, bro. Like the first thing he should have done was called Laron to the side and said, Laron, let me talk to you, bro, man to man, and had a conversation like he did later on. Don't whilst I'm having a conversation, because she's moved to tears, you get behind. Can't you see she's emotional? No, I can see she's emotional. And just because she's emotional does not mean she's right. This is where we have problems also too between men and women, because when women get emotional, suddenly we have to cave in. No, I have an opinion, and just because you're emotional does not mean anything more than me having a say or my own truth about what I'm seeing in front of me. Just because you get a little bit emotional does not mean that what you're doing is right. So when Chaz got onto his side, I was very disappointed, because I was like, if you really are paying attention and you're all about listening, I need you to step the frick off and pull Laron aside and have a man-to-man with him. Don't take her aside without really fully seeing all the facts and what's going on. We talk about men, we talk about women that are male identified. Well, there are also men who too are women identified who just run straight to women's side and without actually considering the context of what happened. Right? Sean's here, fantastic. So Sean, I'm gonna get you, if you're free, but I'm gonna get you on in a few minutes, bro. So yeah, for me personally, I was looking at it that way, and I was like, there's a whole situation with Laron and Kosheia, and I'm gonna break it down for you guys as well in the next few minutes. So if you are here, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And we appreciate you guys who are also returnees. You already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. Let's drop a little intro and then let's get deep into this conversation, because I want to break it all the way down, have a real conversation, because I really do feel for both of them. I understand where both of them are coming from, to be honest, because once feelings get into the play, it's a very dangerous, it's a different game to play. But let's get an intro. Little Black, you know what time it is. All right, let's get into this video. Let's talk a little bit more about Kosheia and talk about this situation. I'm going to take it all the way back because, you know, I feel like we got to start this from way back, because you see, Kosheia was in other people's faces. Oh, she was smiling up in Justin's face, telling him how much she appreciated him, and then had the audacity to try and check Laron about his own behavior. Meanwhile, she was the first person to detach herself from the texting situation with Laron and then expect Laron to behave himself.
Kind of peel back some layers and just see if there's anything there, because
that's why I said about my first review, when I did a little video the other day, I said about control and about power on both sides, right? That because she's not free from that. And just because she's giving me tears now doesn't mean I believe what you're doing. When you were sitting there in front of Justin, smiling up on man's face, okay, you were smiling man's face. Okay, asking him what plate of food he
Feed
had.
him a
And,
little bit, get some weight put on him.
No, he said, look, can I keep it real?
Yes.
I lost 10, 15 pounds in the
Well, you need to
process.
add it back.
I was 178.
Well, we're gonna get you to probably about 210.
all right, cool. So she started just off this situation, right? Now, bear in mind their conversation, what she said. She was like saying that Laron, she has to let Laron go through the whole process, which I totally get, right? I think she's right. You have to let Laron go through the process, which told me straight away what position Kosheia was actually playing. And there's only two positions you can actually play. When someone says, I'm gonna let you go through the process, either they're feeling you too much and they know that, you know what, they don't want to impede on your process. They're ready to leave if they needed to, right? Or the other aspect is that they're playing the game. Now, I don't think Kosheia necessarily is playing a game. I think she actually genuinely is feeling Laron. I think by going by the evidence of past conversations with Laron, I think she is feeling Laron. And she likes the big boys, okay? That's why she wanted old boy to put on a little bit of weight, okay? So it's not like she doesn't like Laron. She does. I want to start from that position. I believe Kosheia really, really likes Laron, okay? All right? And I think with that, we've seen the way she's acted with women in terms of how the velocity of anger that she can display. And anger is only a surface level. There's frustration, there's distrust, there's a lack of hope, there is pain, there's hurt, there is disappointment. That all feature in a concoction before we get to the place of where we say, oh, this person is angry, right? The anger's the top, and there are many different things that get to that place before we get to the anger part, right? That play a role in there. And so what we saw with Kosheia earlier on in the season, or at least a few episodes ago, with her wanting to fight Alexis, and the way that she had a jaw reaction, she got so angry, I'm gonna fight somebody, and then moments later she's crying. And that told me a little bit of the instability when it came to Kosheia. And we've all been there, right? I can't even talk. I got some of that in myself still. I'm still trying to work it out. But that told me about the instability of the situation with Kosheia, right? So now when she gets a situation with Laron where she can't have her way, I can see how there could be an instability and how there can be a little bit of a game that could be played. By the way, I think both of them are playing a game. I'm only explaining Kosheia's side for now. I'm explaining Laron in a second or two. So we know that when she's here talking to Justin, she wants to talk to Justin, don't get it twisted, but why is she having to volunteer the information about, I told the girls last night that, you're kind of cute and that, if you put on a bit of weight, Meanwhile, you know that you feeling Laron. Well, of course, she wants to now go through the process all of a sudden, and she also wants to keep herself maybe a little bit open, right? But once you now keep yourself open, remember, if you're telling somebody else that they are grinning teeth elsewhere, you can't then come and say something. Because now you've opened yourself up, you also are now grinning teeth elsewhere. And she thought it was funny when she said, oh, yeah, but you've been grinning teeth elsewhere too. And he's trying to tell you, well, then don't tell me about me. You know what I'm saying to you? Don't tell me about me, and then don't do the pull away where you're not texting me before the show. You're trying to play, it feels like you're trying to play a game and you're trying to play me at that point. Because I haven't changed my position, right? I haven't changed my position. I haven't changed what I was doing. I was always open. You and I are now getting closer, and yes, we're feeling each other, but I'm still open. You decided to overstep now, and now when you've overstepped, here's what's happening is that you're now trying to check me when really and truly you should be checking you. I know this because I've done this, so I'm telling you. You know what I mean? I know what it, I can't deny. Okay? All right, cool. So this situation, I was like, okay. So now when you're grinning teeth, you're now becoming your own problem, because the very thing you're trying to sort out with Laron, you are becoming the problem for, right? Hence why we're having this conversation.
Put 210 on me. 210, I can cut it up.
Yeah.
5, 9-ish.
That sound like
11-ish.
I felt the energy between me and Kosheia since the process began.
So, like he said, he's felt the energy between himself and Kosheia. And here's Laron, where he's going to have a problem, is that the reason why Laron's going to feel some type of way is also because he does feel for Kosheia. Okay? All right? He does feel some type of way for Kosheia because Kosheia's giving him the energy and she supports him and cares about him, and he likes her too, etc., right? But he's not liking her enough to lock it down just yet. Right? Now, this is where the problem actually begins. Because it's not locked down, neither party has security. And whilst we don't have security, those of us who have got attachment issues are about to start manifesting our actual attachment issues, right? Whether you're anxious, whether you're fearful avoidant, or whether you're an avoidant, you're about to start your process of how you play your games, right? When there is no security and no safety, this is where your attachments start to play games, right? And listen, this is personal for me, because I know this is something that has happened to me, and it's not that long ago. So I know exactly how it feels. When there is no security and when there is no safety, that is where your attachment starts to play games with you, because your attachment starts to kick in because it realizes you yourself are not comfortable now because a person is doing something that makes you feel unsafe. So both Laron and Kosheia have their own attachment issues. I'm not really 100% sure on what Kosheia's is at the moment. It might be more fearful avoidant, but I haven't really assessed it all the way. Laron is definitely avoidant. Like I see Laron, because Laron's one is, you're not gonna play me, and that is usually a big trait of an avoidant. That's me. I know exactly what that is. Once we're in a space of you're not gonna play me, it's the most dangerous place we can be in as an avoidant, because anything goes at this point. And remember, this show, there's no rules to the game. And they are doing something completely different to what real life happens. In real life, I don't get to see what you're doing out there. Therefore, a lot of the mistrust and the hurt and the pain that comes from viewing something that you like do something actually doesn't usually happen. But in this instance, you get to see it all. So now the avoidant Laron is going to feel some type of way too, because he's going to start seeing Kosheia flirting, kikiing, open up her 32 teeth, and say and overhearing conversation about, you a big boy and I need to make you a big boy, when he knows he's the big boy. That's going to cause his attachment issues to start flaring up. And her attachment issues have already started flaring up because she started detaching from the process. Right? Like he said, before you got to this place, you stopped texting me and everything like that before that. Right? She'd already started her attachment phase. Okay? So let me play a little bit more.
Talk on the phone for hours, but she's been kind of secretive lately.
Well, I didn't want to do laundry.
But I told him I want.
Yeah, you want to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Do you want me to make your plate for real?
Oh.
Nah, because she wasn't a lot. Can't lie to you, because she knew exactly what she was doing. About, I want to make your... Do you want to make your plate for you? Listen, because she knows exactly what she's doing. Okay, all right? She's open as well, and she has every right to be open. But both of them know exactly what they're doing, right? This is why I said, I wanted to reserve a little bit more judgment in my other video, that when he did the thing with Maya, it was a get back. But I didn't see this part, so I didn't know this happened. But it's definitely a get back. He was like, I'm going to show you. You thought you ate, but I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to show you what it is. I'm going to show you what I am. I'm going to show you what I'm about. And in that moment, we see her now here. You want to fix your plate, being all conscientious. And they intentionally caught her that way. She had rubbing Chaz's arm. She knows exactly what she's doing, because she's not a fool, right? She's also trying to rope him in. This is why both of them are having the issue, because both of them have control and power issues because of the insecurities that we carry. As an avoidant, I have my own issue when it comes to control. I like to win. I like to make sure that people know that I'm in control. I like to make sure that, you know what? By the end of this, ain't gonna be me crying. You gonna be crying. Like I can't be here crying and you not crying. No, you need to be crying by the end of this. Like it can't be me. Because as an avoidant, you're trying to avoid the emotions and the feelings that you actually feel. Right? So we're just gonna speed up a little bit.
You coming with me, so.
Well, he asked, and maybe I felt a little at home.
Maybe Kosheia made a conscious decision to stop rocking with me.
So, of course, from his perspective, now when he's looking at a situation, remember, the lens he's looking at her right now is that she wasn't texting him, she wasn't being communicative, okay? And she was now kind of closed off a little bit, right? And then he sees her suddenly at the mixer, and now she's flirting with other people. He's going to interpret that differently now to if she had been open, texting and messaging and calling him. He now is trying to read it. Is she trying to play me? Is my girl trying to get one up on me? And as an avoidant, that's one thing we hate. Are they trying to do me? Because trust me, if you think you can do me, I can do you. Because I'm telling you now, I will cut off these emotions and I will finish you. That's an avoidance perspective. It's like once they get hurt, all bets are off. you know, the gentleman goes out the window, the lady goes out the window, and it's like, you about to get it. I'm about to show you what happens when you mess with an avoidant, right? And because an avoidant leans away, whereas the anxious leans in. And the fearful avoidant is not sure whether they're leaning in or leaning out. They do both. And it's always confusion, right? But yeah, so that's a little bit extra.
Definitely felt some type of way.
Let me bring it forward a little bit more to the actual conversation. Let's bring it to here. Okay. All right, cool. Let me bring it to here. Because you know what? As soon as it started, as soon as Laron started, he was on smoke. The moment he started, Laron was on smoke. He said, listen, let me be real with you. Yeah.
Oh, she was playing me. No,
I can't hold your arm.
No, you've been showing out. You know, she's just been real secretive and she'll say,
Do you see what happened there? Straight away, right? Like I said, if you play an avoidant, I promise you they will try to finish you. As soon as she tried to hold his arm, because she tried to play a game too, she knew exactly what she was doing. Why are you trying to hold my arm when you know that you know exactly what you've been doing? Let me change my thing because I think that one's a bit slow. Why are you holding my arm when you know exactly what you've been doing? Right? Because she knew what she was doing. Okay? She knew exactly what she was doing. So as soon as she went to hold his arm after, because he came over and grabbed her from Jonathan, right? And she came to hold his arm like everything's all good and everything's kosher. Don't do that. And avoidant will not allow you to do that because what they're saying is, no, you're trying to play me. And you think you're going to rope me in? No. We're going to have a real conversation now. So as soon as she grabbed his arm, he was like, get off me. No. I want to let you know I'm serious. He said, you've been trying it. And he said, listen, you ain't going to play me. What was his first words? You're not going to play me. Because the worst fear of an avoidant is being played. And I'm telling you, I live it every day, so I know. And I was on the streets for 3 years, and I'm telling you, one thing I ain't never gonna let someone do is get away with playing me. I'm gonna rope you in, and I have to win. It's just that, and that's a tapped mentality because you can miss great people. You hurt a lot of people. You damage a lot of people because once we're hurt, you see, the avoidant also is avoiding emotions, but it's because they've been emotionally hurt. And they end up becoming, I call them emotional F-boys. Listen, if you haven't already done so, please tap into my Dark Arts podcast. You know, I've got another channel. Tap into that because I'm doing a lot of kind of those manipulation things, breakdown on that channel. But being an emotional F-boy, I'm telling you, if you cut me, I will make sure the world knows that you are not going to embarrass me and shame me. And we plot. And that's what I'm saying. I can see as soon as as soon as she tried it, he was like, all right.
She'll say she doesn't have a connection with so-and-so, but now they all smiling in each other's faces. And I'm like, okay, if she's doing that to him, what is she doing to me? I touched you and you were.
So in his head, what he's thinking is in his head, he's thinking, now you smiling in my face and doing this. Okay. So you want to, so maybe you're doing that to other people, and that jealousy, because again, remember, as someone like Laron, as an avoidant, for us personally, it's like, it took a lot for you to get past these guards, right? So if you got past the guard, don't mess it up. Like if you got past that shell, and you got inside, and I allowed you inside to the gates, don't mess it up, okay? Now I'm gonna take things personally, right? And that's why I said that Laron's on smoke because. He's taking it personally now, right? That everything she does is like an attack. Because we're not sitting with our emotions, right? Immediately, the immediate reaction is to protect and guard yourself. So now Kosheia is trying to do the lovey-dovey stuff. It's like, no. Because what he's going to read it as is going to read it as manipulation to him. Because for an avoidant, they feel like your emotions are manipulative. So the moment she tries to do the touchy, grab your arm, I still care about you, it's going to be, get your hands off of me and have a conversation because that's where we need to be. All that emotional, pack it up and take it away. Let's have a real conversation because I don't want to talk about emotions because when I listen to my emotions, you played me. That's how it's going to feel, right? So immediately now, Kosheia is going to be the op. It's just that simple. She's now an op because I can't trust that you are going to have my best interest at heart. Now I'm going to scrutinize every single thing, okay, that you've said and did. And I'm going to make sure I bring it to you like a legal defense lawyer and say, hey, X, Y, and Z you've done. Let's look at this. What's the motivation behind this? That. You know what I'm saying to you? That's how he's going to look at it. Right? When I watched it, I watched it twice. I was like, I can see the frustration on both sides because I can see that because she really cares about him. And maybe she's more of an anxious person, so she's leaning in. You know what I mean? But then she feels like he's not really leaning in, and the anxious and avoidant, you know how they do that little game? He's not leaning in, so she's now trying to pull away to try and draw him in. It's a push-pull. She's trying to draw him in. So now she's done a little bit of pulling away, and he's now coming forward. Now she's like, okay, I want to show you love again. But the reality is, to an avoidant, you're playing games. But to the anxious person, she's like, no. I was trying to draw you in because I wanted you to see me. I wanted you to love me. I wanted you to care about me the same way I'm caring about you. But he's not going to read it that way. So both parties are miscommunicating because they fear of not being loved or not being cared for, right? Just in different ways. So now, so this is a situation, right? Their situation, I don't think is different. I know people want to make a difference between it. It's no different because actually this is the real world. In the real world, people have different attachments, and that creates this toxic situation between two people because neither party's right. Neither party's right. Their attachments are what are speaking for them, and it's causing the issue between two people, right? All right.
For being like very mysterious, which you never done to me.
Absolutely.
And you didn't even hit me up pretty much until it's time for us to come to here. Kind of shut me off.
You are correct. I've never.
Let's pause it right there. What did he just say? And this is why I didn't want Chaz to open his big mouth, because he wasn't listening at the beginning. He only heard the middle part, right? And this is something I'm also learning because, remember when I was younger, I had more of the emotional side. So, I often did take women's side oftentimes. But one thing I'm learning to do now also too is also listen to what men actually say, right? You actually have to hear them, right? And you can't always run after a woman's tail just because she feels some type of way or you feel like she's emotional, that she's right. She's not right because she's emotional. What has to be done is both parties need to be heard and both parties need to be understood. If not, we're going to have more issues. Now, first and foremost, the basis of this conversation starts with you shut me out and you stopped kind of texting me and you've changed your behavior. Now you've changed your behavior. I'm looking at you some type of way. This is what precedes the conversation. Let's play a little bit more.
Never communicated that way to you.
We've been locked in since day one.
We have.
Like, now I'm seeing you smiling in dudes' faces.
You acting up.
I'm just like, so wait, did she play me? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to figure out.
Now let's pause it there. He highlights a behavior and says, hey, hold on. Let me just tell you this. I want to be honest with you. You've been smiling in other dudes' face. You've changed your behavior with the texting. You're now smiling in dude's face. You're now flirting. What was her natural reaction? She started laughing. I mean, come on. Because she knew she was playing the game too, right? She knew that what she was doing at the same time, right? She was trying to get him to move. Okay, she was trying to get him to shift his position. And she was going to do that with a little bit of light flirting, a little bit of dancery, a little bit of, touchy-feely with other people, because she was trying to draw him in. This is typical anxious or fearful avoidant with the anxious, with the avoidant kind of dance. Like, you want to draw man in, and he want to pull you out of position, right? So he tries to maintain his position by being cool, collected, and not emotional. But she wants emotion from him. And neither party is wrong, by the way. I want you to understand, neither party is wrong. They're just operating from their attachment. And let me say neither party. Both parties are wrong because they're trying to operate from their perspective. And it's very difficult because once you're in it, it's hard to get out of it, right? It's like a cycle. But for her, she's looking at the non-emotional aspect of Laron, and he's moving through the process too easy. It's like, are you caring about me? Because you're moving through too easy. You too nice with the other ladies because, you say you care about me, but you move too nice. But the thing is, he might not care about this other lady. Whether he does or not, I don't know, but he might not care about it. But at the same time, okay, all right, at the same time, she also at the same time feels some type of way because she wants him to feel. And so what she's going to do is I'm going to make you feel by pulling you in, right? So I'm going to do some stuff and then pull you in. That's why it's manipulative on both parties' side, because the avoidant doesn't want to access his emotions. The anxious the anxious person wants to access the emotions. So both parties do what they do best, which is anxious tries to pull the person in. The avoidant says, I'm pulling away. right? Okay, so let's play a little bit more.
Oh, where we at? And it's not because it's elimination night. If you're not even feeling me, I would literally still vouch for you. I would go to the end of the earth for you.
Can I hold your hand?
No, I don't want to touch you.
See what she's trying to do? She's like, can I hold your hand? I don't want to hold your hand. And you know I don't want to hold your hand right now. Why are you asking to hold my hand? Because you know what you're trying to do. Because you know what you're trying to do. Right? You know, you think it's she knows it's not. She knows it's getting serious. What she's trying to do is now what? And listen, ladies, y'all tend to do this. I ain't gonna be mad. I'm gonna be true. Ladies tend to do this when they're about to be told off. They try now to do some things in amongst that situation so they don't get told off. And because sometimes what happens with ladies, and not all, by the way, not all, okay? Sometimes what women do is that when they're about to be held accountable, okay, all right, when they're about to be held accountable, they do some ish to try and flip it. And the reality of the situation is, right, they're both wrong, right? But the reality of the situation is when she tried to hold his hand, listen, she was trying to soften him. So instead of just taking on the accountability, she tried to soften him by grabbing his hand. I didn't say all women, and I'm not saying it's always women. I'm just giving an example, right? From a male perspective, this is what we also experience. A lot of times when you're about to hold a woman accountable for her behavior, she's about to do something right now that's going to try and flip the script. And in this moment for her, it was to, let me try and grab your hand and try and flip. And he said, no. I'm not playing that game. But also, at the same time, the avoidant too, I have to be fair and balance it, the avoidant too will tell you he will read everything as being manipulative in that scenario, because if you're not listening or you're not hearing what he's saying, he's going to reason it as you're being manipulative or you're doing something to try and flip the script. So I have to balance it and say it's on both sides, right? So us as men, we're going to read it, a lot of times as men, we're going to read it some way too, when, you know, because I just want to hear what you're saying. I just want to hear what you're saying. But the reality of the situation is, and thank you very much, Viva, yes, her play backfired because she wanted to get him to come in, but really it pushed him away. Okay? All right, so a little bit more. And then
Sitting here telling you my answer, Laron, it has not changed. I've been very consistent. I have to allow you to go through the process, right? Like, I can't harbor you for myself no matter how much I want to.
Go.
If we're going to do that, then we might as well leave the process, right?
Now, here's a pause part. Now, here's where Laron's going to mess up. Because in reality, what Laron, and this is why I said both of them are going to be a problem, is because the avoidant also likes control and power in a dynamic. The reason why we pull away is because it gives us power and it gives us control. So when she says, I have to let you go through the process, he doesn't want her to let her go. He doesn't want her to let him go through the process. No, he wants her to be emotionally tied in. Why? Because that becomes our safety. Then I can trust what you're saying. But the reality is it becomes a form of control and power. And it's very difficult to get out. I can't lie to you. I find it hard to escape that place. That is the one that I found very hard. Being on the streets I was for 3 years. I tell you this for a fact. It was hard. And I don't think I ever accomplished not doing it. Because you're used to a certain level of control in a dynamic. And when it's not going to happen, you escape. When the control don't happen no more, you get out. You say, well, this is enough for me. I'm out. I gotta go. Because you know what? You don't care about me the same way I care about you. But it really is not like that. The reality is, once you allow me to have the freedom and you say you don't care anymore, we're going to have a problem, because the avoidant, that manipulative tendency also too from the avoidant is that you should be caring. You should be, as I pull away, you should be chasing me. Right? That's what I want, because we want the toxic cycle. Okay? All right? So that part there, right?
Told you this from the beginning. Like, don't be out here acting a fool.
Now I'm looking at you, and you're doing the same things.
How am I acting a fool?
I don't know. You've been smiling in too many dudes' faces.
You want me to be like, don't say nothing funny. Don't be nice to me.
What up, though?
Oh.
Now, of course, the beautiful thing about life is it provides these moments where no one can predict what's about to happen. Okay? All right? I know some of you are saying he was mad aggressive. I don't think he was aggressive, personally. I can't lie to you. I didn't think he was aggressive. I didn't think he was too much. Personally, I didn't think he was too much at all. I think he was just a person that just let her know, this is what I'm not doing. I don't personally think he was aggressive. I disagree with that point. Maybe other people have a different point of view, but I personally don't think he was aggressive. But again, when he was talking to her, I mean, he let her know, listen, hey, look, you know, you've been smiling on people's faces, da-da-da-da-da. And for her too, again, she's still smiling because she still thinks it's light. It's not light. To him, he's not light, right? But the reality of the situation, as an avoidant too, he's also making a mistake here because he wants her to stay tethered to him. He wants to have that level of control with it. Then life provides his beautiful moments. Maya comes in, right? And I told you about avoidance. Now, he may never admit this, okay? He may never admit this, but I'm going to tell you straight. It definitely crosses your mind. When Maya came in, it was an opportunity. Right? And the moment Maya said something, it's an opportunistic situation, by the way. Okay? All right? It's an opportunistic situation. What he saw was, I'm going to show you what you did and let you feel how I felt. Right? Maya comes in, says what she says, and actually when you listen to the video, when you listen to the clip, you're going to hear, there's actually conversations happening between Kosheia and Maya underneath. She goes, hi, Maya goes, hi, Kosheia. Koshia's like, hey, Maya, da-da-da. And in amongst the conversation, okay, amongst the conversation as well, Laron's going to do what he's going to do, right? So Maya comes in. It's a great moment. I love this moment.
I still got a bomb to take pictures. Oh,
What did
call
I-
me greedy.
Girl, you are though.
Kosheia.
Immediately as Maya comes in, he switches his focus. Now, this is partly because he finds her attractive. This is also because as well, like, do you know what? The situation between me and Kosheia, I'm about to show her what it is. I'm going to show her what it is, right? I'm really going to show you what it is. You thought you had me. All right, keep playing with me. I'm going to show you, right? Maya comes in, says what she's saying. He switches his focus now. And now he completely ignores Kosheia. And do you know what's going to happen? Kosheia is about to be triggered because remember, as an anxious, you're trying to pull the person in. Now he's pulling away right in front of your eyes. And yes, I felt it was disrespectful what he did. It's part of the game. Because to him, how he's going to look at it is, you was disrespectful earlier on. Yeah? You was disrespectful earlier on. If that's what you want to do, all right, cool, isn't it? I'll let you know. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, cool. I'm going to show you what you were doing. I'm going to show you I can do it better. Right? Because now the avoidance hurt. He's now hurt. So when he's now hurt, he's going to try and show you. It's wrong. I'm telling you this. Everything I'm telling you, I am not saying it's right. I am only explaining what is happening. It's wrong. On both ends, what they're doing is absolutely wrong. But if you don't pay attention to your attachment style, this is what happens. And I know, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing. That's why I'm in therapy. Okay? Because I can guarantee you, Laron was even liked. Because me, I would have plotted and planned. So, let's go.
You making her giggle?
He called me greedy.
She is greedy.
Said I'm a fatty.
I didn't say you were fatty.
Yes, you did.
I might say you had a
So wait,
fatty.
let me get this straight.
LaRon is the party boy.
No, I'm...
He's the party
Stop.
boy. Wednesday. LaRon,
No.
Sunday.
I stop that.
No,
Stop.
Wednesday through Sunday.
Now, man obviously got up as well, you know. Man got up and was like, ooh. He said, all right, cool. I'm going to show you times 10. Instead of sitting down, having a conversation, he went above and beyond. He got up from his seat. And if you notice, he's actually ignoring Kosheia. Got up from his seat, went to Maya, put his face all up in her neck and her ear, and he did absolutely worse than Kosheia could ever have done. Because here's the thing, Kosheia would have never done this. You know why I think she would have never done this? Because her game end was not about destroying Laron. It was never about that. It was about getting Laron to want her. Okay? It was never about destroying him. But once he got hurt, he's like, all bets are off. And I'm going to show you what it is. Okay? All right? Okay? So, tickle my back, I hear you, but the problem's on both sides. She was not mingling. She was doing what she wasn't meant to be doing because she already presetted the conversation by not texting him and not messaging him. So that's already started the game. That's why I'm saying it's manipulative on both sides. It's both of them. Okay? So in that moment, when he gets out, he's going. Listen, he going to show her. Look.
This man is not serious. Any man who says he would go to the end of the earth for me wouldn't be distracted by someone.
Now, here's my problem with Kosheia. When she gets hurt too, her mouth becomes real slick. Okay? When she gets hurt too, her mouth becomes real slick. Okay? Real slick. And so now he's a child. Is he? So why you want a child? So when Kosheia gets hurt, she just says certain things and she doesn't realize she allows her emotions to lead in her actions. And that's what also creates part of the storm. So both of them create a massive Mrs. and Mr. Hancock situation where there's a crazy storm going on because both of them have their insecurities that they play on. You know what I mean? And so in that moment, Now she's calling him a kid, but really and truly, baby, that's the guy that you liking. How's he a kid? How's he a kid? Last bit.
Calling him a party boy. She would be the least of his worries. But he entertained that. I am arguing with a child. So, Laron, what just happened didn't even need to happen.
Listen, I don't want to upset you.
Well, you already did.
Now, she's now going to get upset. She's now going to get upset. Okay? She's now going to get upset. And here's what I'm saying about why I said that it's manipulative, right? Because, baby, you don't get to punch. And when I punch back, because I punched harder, you're going to start these tears. Okay? All right? Trying to get the... And I'm not saying you can't cry, but I'm saying don't be trying to get the whole table on my neck like this. You know what I mean? Yeah? Don't be trying to get the whole table on my neck, please. Like, it's not necessary, right? So now she's like, I'm upset. Yeah, you're upset because he went much harder than you thought he was going to go. You were going to go. All right?
Yes, that whole show you did with Maya?
She's assassinating my character.
Okay, I'm not going to fight
Now,
someone.
Laron thought he was smart too. Oh, she was assassinating my character, so I had to go over there. You lie. He played the same game she did and tried to pretend as if he didn't know what was going on. He knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. Oh, no, she was assassinating my character. I had to go over there and soothe it over. You had to go and rub your nose in her neck. You had to go and rub your nose in her neck to check her assassination of character. Right? Just saying.
Want to believe me when I'm telling my truth.
You gonna tell me I'm your #1 connection? I ain't chit-chatting with every man, that.
Whatever you want to put on me, I accept it.
I'm not putting anything on you. I'm just trying to talk to you.
You're not. You're talking.
Now she feels some type of way, and you know she's like, I'm gonna accept whatever you want me to accept. Baby, please. We know you don't accept it. Stop lying. You know, and that's not. Listen, don't get twisted. Both of these people are problems, right? I'm gonna accept whatever you give me. I'm gonna accept the title. She's lying. She's not gonna accept the title, right? This is her now trying to reverse the manipulation. So she's gonna play the victim now. If whatever you give me, I'm just gonna accept it. If you call me a liar, I'm gonna be a liar. If you call me a manipulator, I'm gonna be a manipulator. If you call me this, I'm just gonna accept it and just take it because no, stop it. Okay, stop it. All right, stop that. We know, stop that. Okay, all right, stop it. Okay, sis, you know what you did, and you know what he did, and you're both playing the stupid games. Okay, all right, and it's part of the parcel, but you're now trying to play a bit of victim. You know what I mean? That's you're now playing victim. Okay, in that situation. Last bit.
At me. And I will just sit here and sulk in my misunderstanding and let you chastise me.
What are you talking about?
Come on, bro.
And suddenly it's a chastisement. I don't know where she was a chastisement. I didn't think it was a chastisement personally. I think he let her know, listen, stop trying to call me out, trying to ask me to do certain things. You ain't doing the same thing. I don't think it was a chastisement. I'm not going to lie to you personally. But she made it much more heavy than it actually was. And I was like, yeah, I'm a bit... And that's why at the end, I felt what he said. When you said you're over it, I'm over it. You're not going to be trying to play me. I'm over it. But you know what? The rest they say is history. I'll do a separate video because I want to do a separate video on a Chaz situation because I can't lie to you. When Chaz starts talking, I honestly wanted to tell him to shut up. You need to keep quiet. You do not need to be in this conversation. Okay, you don't need to be in it. Let me just play a little bit of Chaz part and then...
Bro, she's upset, man.
Because that's how I won't bring him
You
up.
gonna sit there?
What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do, Kosheia?
I'm good, Laron.
All right, if she done, I'm done. I'm not gonna beg no.
So yeah, Chaz out here trying to tell people how to behave. You need to black men. We don't do a good job listening. No, nigga, you don't listen. And don't tell me you don't listen. Don't tell me I don't listen. You don't listen. Because if you had listened, you'd have heard the whole story. Okay? You don't listen. Don't tell me I don't listen. Thank you. Anyway, listen. Look, we brought it to the end. I think I've broken down a lot of it already as well for you guys. So let me get Sean into the conversation. Shawnee boy, talk to me, brother.
What's going on? As soon as I watched this, I knew you were going to. I was like, here we go. This is Kojo 101. I knew you were going to be a Laron sympathizer, empathizer.
Please don't tell me you're going to be Kosheia sympathizer, please.
Not necessarily.
Please.
Not necessarily. I can see both sides of this story, but I think he just missed the mark in terms of bringing down the temperature, and this is what happens. I'm not going to say he's right, she's right, he's wrong. I'm saying I think like as men, we just need to be level-headed and bring down the temperature. Like when a situation escalates, we should be the de-escalator, not the one escalating. And I just saw him as escalating the scenario. And true, it's two people playing games. And if you are quote unquote ready to love, you know, there's a certain point where you just have to sit back and observe the landscape. You know, when you get caught up in playing all those games, then you're playing games and you're not listening, you know. So I do agree with Chaz in the fact of, you know, just listen, just hear her out, hear the situation, and then you can make your assessment coolly and calmly. But I think he just reacted emotionally, and it was a little immature, you know, because at a certain point, if I do value a relationship with somebody, which I think he does value the relationship with her, then I got to go into situations, and I've been saying this a lot lately, I have to enter into the relationship with good faith. So if I get in an argument with you, even if it's a friendship, Kojo, I have to enter into it with good faith. So that means I have to have a willingness to hear what you have to say, and then we can kind of both share our sides. But if I've already got the story told, if I've already have my answer, and then I'm waiting for you to disprove what I already believe, then it's already starting off on a bad point. And I think that's where he was. He already saw what he needed to see. He saw her. I probably need to go back and rewatch the episodes because I don't remember when all of that. Where's that clip? Where's that clip from? Is that an exclusive or was that in the actual episode where she was making plates and talking to people and all that other stuff?
That's actual episode.
Yeah, so I need to go back and rewatch it because I did not see that part and maybe I was rushing through. But long story short, he already saw that information, so he made his assessment in his head. Oh, she's doing da-da-da-da-da, plus combining with what she already admitted to doing, which was pulling away by not calling him and not reaching out, you know, prior to them getting to, you know, the pajama jam. So, you know, that's it. So, hey, I think that's where he could have been better. I think she should have been, you know, just not playing the games. If there was something that she was feeling or looking to do, then have a conversation with him ahead of the time and don't just pull away from the person because you're trying to elicit a reaction or because you're hurt and you're trying to navigate your feelings. So you just start, you know, going into a shell and kind of moving a little differently.
I agree with that 100%. And what she saying about my wounded soul, so I can't see the side. I said both sides. I actually explained the behavior, what was going on both sides. Sometimes I feel like when people listen, they don't listen. I think you need to listen to what I was saying. I explained that both sides are actually a problem. And if you had listened very clearly, you would have understood I was explaining both the avoidant and the anxious. Neither of them are right because they're both manipulated in each other. And I was saying there's nobody that's actually a winner here. I only understood what he was coming from because I am also an avoidant. That doesn't make what he's doing right. I've never said what he's doing is right. I just said that what he gonna do is that he gonna do it extra. So actually what you should do is the person should actually listen to what I'm saying because you might learn something and actually learn about the behaviors between two people because I'm not right as an avoidant. I'm gonna view it as you're my op. What I'm trying to say is how he's gonna see things is you are now becoming my op because emotionally I get easily hurt. So I protect myself and by distancing from a situation. So if I allow you to get in and you hurt me, I feel it 10 times more. So I'm going to then push you away. So in that instance, what I was explaining was neither of them are correct in that instance. Sorry, my phone's going off. But neither of them are correct in that instance. And so in that situation there, what you get is that two people now are playing this game. And so when you see both people playing the game, no party is right because if I throw mud at you and you throw mud back at me, but I throw a bigger mud at you, it doesn't mean that you're not. It doesn't mean that you haven't part of the mudslinging. We're both in the mudslinging, and now we both got mud on us. I can't now be like, nah, because you do. No, I have to look at both sides are actually now a problem. And you're absolutely right. From a perspective of a man where you want to take it to the highest level in that particular situation, yes, in that situation, what I think it's not even. Personally, the tears would have happened. I don't care what anyone says. The tears would have happened, regardless, because the moment he addressed the situation, that's where she was going to, because she wanted to get out of the situation. Now, what he should have never done is the Maya situation for me, right? That's the tit for tat. That's the la-tet we talk about that you don't want to be doing, because when you do la-tet, it doesn't work for either party. Both of you end up losing if you really care about the relationship. If you want to win, then do la-tet. I promise you'll win. I promise you. If you want to win and have control and power over that relationship, then do la tete la tete. But if you genuinely love and care about the person, doing la tete destroys your relationship. It doesn't build it up. Because all it does is it creates winners and losers. And in a relationship, there is no winner and loser. In a relationship that you're fostering that's healthy, there's only understanding that begets understanding. And so I have to be in that place, not in a win-lose. And where I saw Laron and I saw Kosheia was in win-lose. It was not in understanding. She didn't take accountability for what she said. Just because she admitted what she said, she didn't take accountability that she was playing a game and she was trying to draw you in. She just said, yeah, I did it. That wasn't taking accountability for what she said, right, at that point in time. So she was not accountable for what she said. And at the same time, he too was not going to take away the op eyes because he's also looking at her going, okay, if that's what you're doing, I'm going to do it. Same thing to you too. I think both of them are a problem. That's what I'm really touching on, is that if you're an anxious person, you might understand Kosheia. If you're an avoidant person, you might understand also as well from old boy side too, right? But they're both a problem. Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, and I think where the moment was missed was, and this is how when you play these games, you miss the opportunity, because he could have come out being completely right in the scenario, because he never let her. I never got to hear. I don't know if it was edited or whatever happened, but I never got to hear her explain why she did that. So for me, and I guess this is where, I feel like you can only allow somebody to do, somebody's going to do what only you allow them to do. So if somebody you feel like they're trying to pull away from you and playing a game, then you will only be played with if you allow them to play it with them. So if she's admitting something, then you need to finish it. You need to finish the conversation. You need to finish hearing it out. But he was so reactive and emotional, and I think that was amped up by the drinking. So he was not in a position, and I saw that in the comments earlier, to really fully have this conversation the right way. So what he should have done is say, hey, baby, listen, before it even started, I'm tipsy, let's just have a good time tonight and we can revisit this in the morning, or let's you and me chat separately, right? Not in front of the group. Because I think that's another thing, is when that amps up this, I need to show that I'm winning, is when you have an audience. And the audience was whomever was sitting at that table and whoever was in earshot of the conversation. So in his mind, I don't want to look like a punk. I don't want to look like I'm losing. I already see what's played out earlier in the day. So I want to make sure I put my stake in the ground, and now my actions are going to be more amplified. So one way. The other part was, I really think you should have just heard what she said, because then you have more evidence to know, okay, is she really playing? Is she really owning up and saying, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I realized it, but this is why. And now we can just deal with the behavior. And I think this happens in relationships, because we don't flesh it out and we don't talk about it. We make the person the problem, and the problem isn't the problem. So he's made Kosheia the problem versus her actions, which are pulling away from him. Let's understand why you did that so we can discuss it and figure out if we can find some middle ground back to each other. But it requires somebody to have a level head. If both people are amped up, then it's just going to be amplified. So you're just going to see it continue to notch up. I don't want to look bad. I don't want to look bad. And now she's defaulted, which into a vulnerable state. For whatever reason, some may say it's manipulation. Some may say it's like she's at her capacity, which I looked at it as she just looked to be at her capacity for going back and forth with him like that, because it was now too much. Now we've got another person. We've got another woman. Now you're going above and beyond. I can't talk to you now because I'm at capacity. So now I'm just all the way shut down. So we just have a situation that just went haywire. Both of them contributed to it. I just wish that Laron would have stopped, said, okay, she's admitting, and that's in a thing, when you wrestle, when somebody is starting to maneuver, now I'm not a pro wrestler or, anything like that, but I do know when you feel somebody relenting, you give up a little bit, but not too much. So that's what I wanted him to just stop, but he still is going. And it's like the person has kind of raised the white flag. So if they raise the white flag, you kind of, you give back a little bit, and now you can hold still to your position, but allow her to explain, and then you can kind of maneuver to the next point.
Yeah, no, listen. So yeah, she once she said, obviously, she did do that, maybe a better question at that point in time would have been to say, okay, let me dive a little bit deeper and say, okay, so you did that. What was the reason why you did that? What was the thinking behind that? She did kind of explain a little bit. She said explain about them going through the process, right, as to why she pulled away. But that actually is not the answer. So and that's what I think. That's where also you're almost asking someone to then have to ask really qualifying questions. You're almost going into now therapist mode, right? Because the reality of the situation is what she gave was only one part of the answer. The reality is not because she wants to go through the process. The reality is that she felt like she needed to control the situation because she felt like she also feels some type of way about him doing what he's doing. So she's also trying to kind of wrestle back. I don't even say, when I say power, I don't mean it in a manipulative sense of you're trying to dominate the other person. What you're trying to do is almost wrestle back a little bit of the control of the situation because you feel like you're out of control as an anxious person or as an avoidant. Both parties are feeling like the control is being removed from them based on fear and insecurity. So for her, it would have been like he's pulling away and I'm trying to wrestle back some of that power because as you pull away, I'm feeling hurt. The reality is I felt hurt by you having to go through the process because I know I felt some type of way about you. See, if we want to have a real conversation about where we have to elevate the levels, nobody's doing it. Neither man nor woman, because really and truly, we have to go to the highest hill of what you really are feeling, and that means really expressing. And yes, that would have been, it's more ideal that as a man, because we have to control the temperature of the conversation, that he should have actually been able to ask that. I'm always trying to be very careful because what we're actually asking is people to be therapists a little bit, just a little bit, because what he's gonna really have to ask is qualifying questions that take it that much further. Okay, you said obviously that I'm doing my own thing in the process. Is that what caused you then to actually react the way you did? Because that's only one part of the motivation. It's almost like watching a film and the villain doesn't have a strong motivation. You're like, so he did all of that for that little thing? Nah, come on. What's the motivation? You need to know the real motivation as to why an extreme behavior gets taken to where you distance yourself, take yourself out, don't want to talk to me, and now all of a sudden when we're back on here, you're now flirting with everybody else. So then it does require him to ask more qualifying questions in that moment. And I think you have more of that patience, like you're saying, Sean, when you're more invested in understanding than winning, right? And it's very hard to get out of the place of winning, especially when that's been your MO and that's been your protective order and how you've survived. But if you want to thrive in a relationship, like you're saying, Sean, the whole MO is that we're going towards understanding. And in that place, I do have to give you grace and I have to believe. And actually, she actually mentioned it. You know, me sharing my truth, he don't believe it. He doesn't believe it. He honestly doesn't believe it. If I'm honest with you, he doesn't believe it. Because the fullness of your story has not come to its round part, right? And there's more to the story. So yeah, I just felt like obviously in that moment, you know, both of them, you know, I did feel like in that situation they both could have done something better. And her saying, you know, again once more that, hey, you know, I did actually do it. For me, actually, it's not really being accountable. Just because I said I did it, that doesn't mean anything. You've admitted it, but you know, why are you actually really doing it? It would have been the fullness for me. But that's me. But yeah, go for it, Sean. Because I think we're giving two perspectives, and I like it. We're giving two different sides. I think it's good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just think, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, when a situation is escalating, somebody's going to have to calm down. And
that's true.
You know, I think, and also my perspective is, if you're amplified, you're gonna miss the moments. And I feel like you can assess more. You can really fully understand the scenario and have all the information. And when you're in a listening position, but if you've already got the story built, and I think this is unfortunately what happens when you have people who are reactive, is you've got the story. So the story is driving your emotions. So if the story is driving your emotions, and it happens in the chat, it happens all the time, because whatever somebody feels, they already feel that already. So they just need somebody to attach to what they're saying. So once somebody either attaches to what they're saying or they don't say it the way they want them to say it, then they get sparked, right? There's people that just get sparked. Then you have people that can, you know, flesh it out. Okay, I can hear what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying. Or maybe I don't agree, but I hear you, you know, but some people are very reactive. As soon as you say one thing, it's like, oh, you're not You're not holding the person accountable, or you're not here. And I think that's what the both of them are doing. Now, where I think Laron missed his opportunity is because she did yield to him a little bit. She did. So whatever you're thinking her reasoning is, whatever you're thinking why, you know, and I think this is the danger of trying to be 2 steps ahead of everybody, because sometimes you're going to be right and you might be right, but sometimes you're going to be wrong. Because, you know, unless you have a clairvoyant spirit, you are a psychologist, psychiatrist, you're not going to understand everybody's human motives, and you're not going to be able to quickly dissect everything the right way. Some of it is just going to miss the, you know, so you're just going to miss it out because you're not perfect. So that's why it's always better take their words, and then if they're playing, then you use their words against them. Because if she came out and said, hey, listen, I just wanted to give you the freedom to do what you wanted to do. I stopped calling you because I was tired of, you know, hearing things, this X, Y, and Z was happening, because I'm hearing things behind the scenes were happening with you, right? So whatever it was, you know, that's why she was doing what she was doing. Because, I mean, truth be told, Laron was doing the same thing. So he was not out here being the choir preacher boy. We saw him very flirtatious with Maya. We saw him having conversations with other women, getting to know them, being flirtatious. So it's not out like he was out here being chased, you know, chased choir boy praying with all the ladies, and she's being friendly, right? So I think that's where there was also manipulation on his part, because he's trying to sell a story. Oh, baby, I was all sold in for you. We could do this. No, bro, that was a little game, because we haven't seen him even do that. So they're both playing a game. Now, what he didn't like was he didn't like to see it. So that's where he came into, well, listen, I don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing it in my face. Well, first you distance yourself from me, and I sensed a bit change. And now I'm seeing you mix and mingle with the other guys. So now I'm going to give you a taste of how I felt, forgetting that you were also playing the process. You just didn't necessarily do it as much in her face as you felt like she did it to you. So that's the core thing, is about how are we feeling about being in this process. And I just, you know, I want you to do this, but I'm not necessarily going to do it. And I don't want to also see it. So, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think that as well. Like the seeing it is what causes the issue always, you know what I mean? I think that's where, obviously, that's what triggers a lot of people, you know what I mean? You know, I think that's also part of it. Now, where I think also I also feel for Laron a little bit is that, like I said, I hate when other Negroes come into the conversation and instantly take the situation, you know, come into a situation and take the woman's side. Because immediately what happens is that my voice also means that it doesn't have a weight to it. And I felt like Chaz just added more fuel to the fire rather than actually trying to calm the situation down. Don't tell me about she's upset. I need to look at it. I'm upset. We are both upset. Okay? So I'm not about to reason about her upset, because I'm upset too. What I needed Chaz to do was like, bro, let me talk to you, let me pull you away and let's have a conversation. That's what I expected Chaz to do. Not to come in there, sit next to her, be all like, oh my God, are you okay? And like almost crying behind her and making it more of a scene rather than just saying, bro, let me talk to you one-to-one, bro. Let me advise you. That's why when he tries to advise him later on, he can hear it, but he's not really listening to him. You know what I'm saying to you? Because don't come in that space and do that. Pull me to the side, have a conversation, and let's talk about it. Do you know what I'm saying to you, right? And that space, and then I can hear you properly, because I also need to be heard too. We're not in a world where only women's feelings only women's feelings matter, right? It should be that both parties' voice can actually be heard. And this is why, the reason why I'm saying this is because this actually builds up in relationships a lot of times. And I'm talking from a male perspective. What will happen is a woman has her feelings and it trumps everybody else's feelings. And that now my feelings don't really matter because you got upset. No. You getting upset is fine, but my feelings are still going to matter. And I'm still going to say what I feel. And so when Chaz comes in, he does what I really don't like, because it never really helps the situation, is if you want to understand, then take the man away, because man to man, we can talk. But what you're going to do is listen. The first thing he came is, you don't listen. Black men don't listen. You didn't even hear the full story. So now you're out here coming at me. You don't hear the full story. It's slightly different. Like when, like myself, you and me and you, Sean, our situation, Jamaica, right? It's slightly different because you had been there the whole process, right? So you can see everything that's happening, right? And then we have an established friendship before that, right? So we can go back and forth. But if I don't know you that well, and your first instinct is coming like, oh my God, are you okay? She's upset, can't you see? I'm gonna look at you like, Negro, don't ever think in your life that I'm gonna listen to what you're saying because you came in first thing and was immediately on her side. That means whatever I say won't matter, you know? So, but he had some good points. The points, that doesn't take away from the truth of what he said. I'm merely saying that how it's gonna get delivered is gonna come off a little bit differently. Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, I think him in that speech, you know, he could have saved the speech in his little intro disclosure because that kind of fell flat, you know. I think once he took him to the side and they were having the separate conversation, that's when I was with him, you know, like, hey, listen, just, you know, bring it down, because I think it's no matter what, whether it's TV or real life, it's always best when we are at a regulated state in any type of exchange, right? Now, yes, can women use their tears as manipulation, and does it happen? But it only plays out if we let it play out, right? When a woman cries and then you get reactive, now you just look worse. You just look worse, right? If you're sitting there calm while she's crying, then this is just gonna let it play out, right? I'm not saying he should be like, oh, baby, let me hug you and kiss you and wipe all your tears away. I'm not saying that's what we should do. But however, when you start being reactive and now you're like, no, I don't care, blah, 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 whatever he's saying, and then you storm off, it's like, bro, you know, let's just take it down and let's just be level, because two people can't be emotional at the same time, because now you've got nothing but fireworks. And then it looks like you look like you're not handling it correctly. But I do think Chaz's initial intervention, you're never gonna, like, it's like he almost wanted to be the mediator, like, let me just come in here and put my cape on and save the day. And that never really works out, right? You have to assess the landscape. You have to come in and say, hey, listen, you know, guys, I think this is a little escalated. Laron, can I talk to you for a second? That's it. Nobody needs you to, you know, jump on the theme of the year. Black women are the most disrespected women on the planet. You know, nobody listens, #listen to Black women, and then, you know, you get with your speeches, because now it's going to be annoying, you know? So I definitely think there's a better way to intervene if you want to, and that ain't it.
Yeah, listen, I definitely hear that, man, you know, and I think, obviously, and again, maybe, you know, I think obviously once someone starts crying, I personally think you should have left that table earlier, personally. Because if I don't want to deal with the tears right now, and I'm not going to be in the best space to give you that support, I think a better way should have been, listen, hey, look, let's get to a place where I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to walk away for a little bit and then come back. Because if I'm not going to be able to give you the good response in that moment, I'm only going to make things worse. You know what I'm saying to you? But there was a little bit of chit-chat between the two of them, like you're saying. There was a bit of back and forth between the two of them. So I can understand that, yeah, in that moment, it ain't going to come out correctly, you know, in that moment. So, you know, I'm always careful about that, because, like I said, once you see that both people have attachment issues, both of them are likely to manipulate a situation. So yes, tears actually become a manipulative aspect, and they do, because people use them as a way of trying to soften or trying to get you to maneuver. So if I'm not in a space to really respect and really honor you in that moment, I think the best thing to do is to walk away. But he walked away with chitter-chatter. So that was the only problem. He walked away with chitter-chatter and a couple bars to let her know, like, you know. And she didn't also leave it there too. She didn't just start crying and leave it there. She left it crying and saying, well, I'm done. And he's like, well, if you're done, I'm done too. You know what I'm saying? And this is why I'm saying that it takes two to tango, right? But you're right, in a sense, from a perspective of, you know, in handling things better. I think you've got two choices. Either you are going to surrender and you're going to give her a hug and say, listen, hey, look, I want to talk to you. Or two, what you are going to say is, listen, I'm going to walk away. But what I will say is that I don't want to pretend as if people don't use their tears as a way of weaponizing. And especially with Kosheia's background, yeah, it's more than likely can also happen, right? So, you know, I think either way, I don't want to say the perfect way to handle it would have been to go and give her a hug. Because if I think that she was being manipulative in that moment, what I need to do, I think to myself, is say, hey, look, responsibly, I'm going to take a few minutes. I want to recuperate and recalibrate, right? I'm going to process what's just happened. And let me come back in a few minutes and let's have a conversation. Whether you crying or not, I can't deal with the crying right now. And I'm not going to give you a good response. So maybe a better response would have been to walk away and let her know you're going to come back in a few minutes and have the conversation, you know? But if you can handle the tears, then by all means, sit next to her and then say, hey, look, you know, I got you, blah, 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 blah. I think a lot of guys probably will take the second option, but we don't execute it very well. That's the only issue, right? We execute with a couple of bars for your neck, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying to you? But yeah, if I know tears definitely are weaponizers and it's been weaponized against me, so I know. So I don't take it lightly. If you're going to cry about it, I don't mind, but I'm going to say to you, I'm going to take a few minutes. Because what's happening is now my voice is also now being choked by your tears. I'm saying something to you and I have to now subdue my thoughts because you're in tears. Well, let's take a few minutes then. You're going to come back. Because I've got some stuff to say and I need to get it off my chest. Otherwise, I'm going to be harboring stuff. Your tears don't end the conversation all of a sudden. And your tears also brought another party to the table to tell me, can't you see she's upset? Which meant now my voice really was silenced. So, and that's what I'm saying again, what's going to happen is resentment is going to build and I'm not going to say how I feel. And every time this happens, I'm always going to feel like I'm being silenced. And that's what actually happens with a lot of men. And then they don't say anything at all. And what they're going to do is they're going to start drifting very quietly. And then we don't know why he's elsewhere where he shouldn't be. I mean, women do it too. They drift as well. So it's not just a man thing. But I'm saying specifically for men, you know. So just to give that other side too, you know. What was your thoughts to the? I don't know if you was going to talk about.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say? What were my thoughts on
the actual Chaz conversation? So you know later on, because I think it was a good conversation as well.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a good dialogue for him to just encourage him to listen, right? Because I think that's where you miss it. Because again, I think he's seeing the tears, and whatever it is, you can have an assessment, you could think they're manipulative, but just scratch that. Right? Because all of that comes from, at the end of the day, a previous situation, your previous experience with other people, how you interpret tears, your emotional, your emotional levels. I think at relationships, and again, I think this is where it comes with the good faith. You got to kind of scrap that stuff, right? And you got to give people enough room to prove themselves and to get to know it. You might think it's manipulative, and maybe it is, but allow it to prove itself to be. Because if you already got the answer and the assumption, then you've already made it. So for me, I think the most secure position to be in is just allow it to be, right? We're having a conversation. She cried, have the conversation. And I think what Chaz was telling him was to just listen, just hear her out. You are stunting the conversation. And not only did you stunt it, you injected and had your little moment with Maya, right? So as much as, it was over, that was after, right? So it got escalated to where she shut down. She wasn't shutting down until he did that extra moment in there. That's on him, right? That's on him. That's on you in that moment, in this discussion. Forget about what you think happened 2 days ago. We're trying to flesh that out. That still all hasn't been discussed. You did something right now. So he actually needs to own the fact that you just did something really hella inappropriate right then and there. So you need to, and now she's crying. So that's a cause and effect right there in that moment. So now you have to catch yourself in real time to be like, hey, I'm getting out of hand. I'm getting a little bit too, wound up, and now I'm getting really caught up in this whole game playing and this back and forth, and now I've lost control of myself, because truly you're losing control, and I think the one thing that I kind of saw is, and this is why I keep saying, like, as a man, there's masculine and feminine energy. And I think at the end of the day, if they both were at a highly emotional state, different types of state. Like, I'm not saying he's acting like a woman, but he is in his emotional bag in this moment. And when you're in your emotional bag, you're not going to see the landscape as effectively as you think it is. It's all playing out in your mind, and you think you know it, but you're not necessarily seeing it, and you're missing moments. So she's highly emotional. He's highly emotional. How are we going to get to any point of resolve? We're not. because I'm going to be emotional. You're going to be emotional. My emotions are causing me to do X. Yours are doing here. Somebody needs to level out. And he needed to pull back into his masculine energy and just kind of, hey, it's not about stopping your emotions. Nobody can stop you from saying what you need to say. It's about, hey, let me just take a moment because the situation is escalated. So if she's crying, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get anything out of the situation if she's in her crying state. So I need to check the temperature, reassess. I've already done something that's hella wild. So let me just come back down here so we can get back to a level part and get to however we're going to choose to resolve it or table it. And I think that's where he definitely was wrong and missed his mark, is because he kept going. Because now he's going to overprove his point. He's going to overstep to the top, no matter what she's doing, no matter what's happening to her. I felt like that's where he missed his moment. Now, if she was going to the wall, cussing him in that moment, going wild, then I would say, hey, listen, he's got every right to walk away. He's got every right to, do whatever he needs to do in that scenario, because she's like at a super elevated point.
So I'm going to disagree with you, Sean, here. And I'm going to disagree with you because why do I need to wait till she cusses me out for it to be elevated already? If my de-escalation is to walk away in that particular moment, that's my de-escalation. I shouldn't have to sit there when you are now crying and I feel like I'm not being heard. And then you've got a third party being involved. So I don't have to sit in that situation. I totally understand it. It is becoming an emotional situation, and we call it an emotional reactive situation, right? Where the temperatures are now high, right? And in that state, I can't give you the best reaction. So what needs to happen is I do need to remove myself if I can't give you the best reaction. And again, I have to understand as well that, again, we're looking for understanding. We're not looking for a win here, okay? So if I'm upset and you're upset in that moment and I cannot give you what I need to give you, and bear in mind, the information that's also happened beforehand is you also seeing certain behaviors from her and now she's crying because you're holding her accountable for what she did. Yeah, I'm going to look at you some way. So what I need to do is I need to remove myself so that I don't respond in my frustration and anger, because I'm angry right now, right? Because you're drawing me in. And you're drawing me in, and you're drawing someone else in, and you're having a conversation about something that you started first by having a conversation with me about it, and you were the one that pulled away from me. So if you're going to do that, what I'm going to do is I need to remove myself. So I don't need to succumb, and I don't need to succumb trying to have a conversation with you when you're in tears. You're actually not listening to me when you're in tears at that point. If you're going to start breaking down, you're not going to be hearing me. So there's no conversation to be had. The conversation actually is over, because once you start crying, you can't hear what I'm going to say to you. You're crying. And then you got a third party in your ear too, telling you how bad I am for not responding to the fact you're emotional. Yeah, you ain't going to hear nothing I'm going to say. You ain't going to hear nothing I've got to say. So in that moment, I really do believe that Laron, maybe the one or two jabs that he left at the table when he was talking and leaving, yeah, probably should have been done. Let's be honest about that, Let's have a clean leave, all right? Where we say, listen, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to come back in a few minutes when I've calmed down, and I've got a more clearer head, and we can have a conversation. Or maybe I'm going to have a conversation tomorrow, because both of us are literally a bit emotional at this particular point in time, etc., right? So in that moment, if you're crying, I don't care what anyone says. When you are crying, okay, your ears are not working as effectively. We know this already. You start crying, your ears are not working as effectively because you're crying. Right? And so the other party also too is also responding to your crying at the same time too, right? Because I'm trying to have a conversation with you now, breaking down in front of me. What do you want? You know what I'm saying to you? The person should leave. I agree. I think he should walk away. And I think personally as well at the same time, I think he should just say, hey, look, we need to discuss it either later on or tomorrow when we're both sober and we have a stable mind. But the point is they're both drunk. So they're both a little bit intoxicated anyway. But I think that's a better way to handle it from his perspective. But I can't be having a conversation with you and you crying at the same time. You aren't actually listening to me. You're going to be focused on crying, right? And because she cries when she's frustrated. I think that's a appropriate response too, right? And then the whole sobbing and then someone's in your ear too. Nah.
And I think that's where I'm pushing back a little bit, is because the tears was an escalation from that recent outburst, right? If she had just had started to cry once they were having the discussion about why she pulled away and they were going back and forth, and then immediately she started crying, yeah, I would be like, okay, he's right for walking out because she doesn't want to have accountability. But She cried after he had that whole thing with Maya, where he was hugging and kissing on her neck and telling her she got a fatty. All of that stuff is what escalated the emotions and the crying, because their conversation was also stilted while they were mid-conversation. So that's why I'm saying now the onus is on him, because you started something that disallowed that conversation to continue. So it's on him to now come back and find himself and to continue the conversation. Because if you and I are debating about something, right, or we have had a disagreement, and then we're going back and forth, right, sharing, okay, this is what I think, but then you stop and then you run off and you start talking to Jay about something, right, and then you try to like talk a little bit about me to Jay. I'm pissed. Now I'm pissed. So now that takes any leverage that we had. It's up to you to come back to the conversation and be like, oh, Sean, my bad, bro. That went a little too to the left. I just need to talk to you. But he continued to try to defend it. Oh, she assassinated my character. Bro, you're wild. You wanted a moment with Maya, and you have every right to, do that. But that was not the right time for you to have that moment with Maya, right? So all he needed to say was, hey, my bad, Kosheia. Let's get back to where we were. But again, he's the one that's drunk, not really her. It's him that's tipsy. So he's not clear. So he should have just said, listen, if he wanted to, he should have came back and said, hey, look, clearly I'm on another level right now. So this could be another time. And that's it. But he's still at an elevated state and going back and forth, trying to play games. You can't do all of that when you're tipsy. So that's why I think the onus was on him to de-escalate, because he's the one that kind of started this last spin.
I appreciate it. Let me just address this point. I'm in the mood to address points today. So listen, I did not say that when people cry automatically it's manipulation. And that's why I'm going to say it again. Please open ears. I never said that. I never said that when people cry, it's automatically manipulative. I said, I'm taking into context what happened. You punched me, I punched you, and now you're crying about it, and the conversation's coming to an end. That's what I was talking about. And because of Kosheia's past history and the way she's dealt with certain situations, right? You're willing to dish it out, but as soon as it gets dished back to you, you start crying. That's why I said about the manipulation aspect. Had it been somebody else, I wouldn't have probably said that, because I don't have that narrative already of that particular person. If Maya had started crying or Alexa started crying, I wouldn't have had that particular perspective. I took it in context in terms of what she has done. So it's not about me saying about a girlfriend I'm dating. I hate when people do that, because it's a sneak attack when they try to hit you with I hope your next relationship, you don't think your girlfriend, when I never said that. I don't like that. I don't like when people do that. It's a low blow kind of hit. Miss Ionu, please leave that alone. Now, my situation in this situation, I agree with you. I think I agree with you the way that, when it comes to Laron, unfortunately, he could have handled this in much more better and grace. And I feel like, in this situation it's almost a loss. It's almost a lose-lose. It can always be a lose-lose in a situation, right? So the only way to kind of win this again is to go for understanding, right? So I want to reiterate that point. It's not about winning the argument. It's not about winning. I know, sorry. It's not about winning the argument. It's about understanding begets more understanding. And so if you don't, then what you're going to do is you're going to end up ruining the relationship. But that's why, that's why I like, when there are situations, I think it can come back from this, right? It didn't get too crazy. I mean, it could be handled better. I think it can be handled better. I don't think it's gone past a certain point. I don't think it's gone past a certain point where, you can't come back from. I think there's still come back. I think there's a conversation tomorrow. I think there's a conversation they can have later on that can be fleshing this out. But it requires two people to be level-headed at that time, and it requires a more cool head to be able to have that conversation, and actually for both people to actually be listening. I don't need you to be crying again in the situation. I actually need you to have a conversation. And I guess I'm giving more of the Laron side. You're giving more, I guess, a more balance in this. I'm trying to give it more of a Laron side aspect, because I understand where it's coming from, and I can understand how hard it can be in that scenario as well. So, yeah. So, but I definitely hear you. It can be handled better, and I think it should have been handled better.
Yeah, and I see. Listen, I guess I don't get that affected by tears. I've had women who are not criers. I've had women that are criers. for me, like, you know, it is what it is. I'm not really gonna, you know, like if we're in a heated situation and you're crying, you know, might I attend to it, but we can still keep talking. You know, we could still continue the conversation as long as you're in a position to do so. And I think like there's still an element of people bringing their baggage to situations, because if you've had bad experiences with somebody that uses their tears as a weapon, then your default is going to be like, oh, there's no reason for her to cry. Because I even saw Phil say that you can't tell somebody there's no reason for them to cry either, right? You know, sometimes there's things that make people cry. It might not make you cry, but there's a reason for it. She felt emotional, and mind you, he also did embarrass her. So some people cry when they get embarrassed. So hey, I don't really think it's a big deal. I think what happens is you know, what are the tears and how are they used? Now, if somebody, you know, it's a constant, right? And you have to see a pattern before you can define a pattern, right? So if she's constantly crying every time you have an argument, then you know it's a pattern. But if the first time she cries, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. She's crying. I know she's trying to manipulate me. You haven't even seen it from her. This is the first time you've seen her cry with you. So allow her to define it. Allow yourself to fully assess it before you go to that default place. And I think that's where we need to be, because yes, can we use information and collect it and, you know, kind of know a little bit? But for certain things, I think we have to also assess the actual person, assess their behavior, and give them a chance. And that's where I think it comes from, entering into relationships and friendships with good faith. And you can do that and still have your boundaries without being an all or nothing, right? As soon as you see something, you jump on it, right? As soon as I see the tears, oh, you're trying to manipulate me, right? Take it easy, maybe, or maybe not, you know? So I think that's where you just gotta have that security within yourself to say, what's going to happen here? And I think sometimes, like, this is the danger of the human mind. It's what's going to happen. So what happens if I stop for a second and attend to her tears? What's the worst thing that can happen? Right? I don't know. We don't really know. Or maybe I don't get to say my point at that moment. Okay, that's the worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario on the flip side? If I flip out, if I don't listen, if I shut her down, I miss the moment, I damage the relationship, I kind of misread something that maybe wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? So you got to do a certain risk assessment, and there's more risk on the side of shutting down, not listening, making the assumption, versus the other side where you just kind of check the temperature and you just kind of relax a little bit. And I think that just comes with, you know, time, trusting the person, trusting yourself, right? Because sometimes it's like, I've been hurt before, so I can't even trust myself to behave how I would naturally behave. So I can't trust me because I feel like doing that is going to put me in a position of vulnerability. Hey, you gotta realize, relationships, you're going to get hurt. Trust me. There's nobody in a relationship that's never been hurt before. There's no relationship, no scenario, no set of boundaries and bars that you're going to create where you're not going to be hurt at sometimes, where your feelings are not going to, you know, be on the line, where the person's not going to do something to you. It's just unrealistic to kind of set yourself up to think, I'm going to hold all the cards, I'm going to always be in control, and I'm never going to get my feelings hurt. You know, you kind of set yourself up for a false expectation where once the person does hurt you, then it's like, boom, you're done. So that's my little long soliloquy.
No, it's a good soliloquy. Like I said, I think we're having a good dialogue. I'm going to push back again. I think we're doing a disservice to saying that, oh, does she cry every time? We have to wait for that. We don't have to wait for that, because the scenario is given a context. You decided to punch, I punched too, and now you're crying. I'm not going to look at it as I'm going to be, oh my God, she's so emotional about the situation. I'm going to look at it as it's going to be manipulative because of the situation, the context of the situation. You've decided to not text me, not message me, and then you've also decided that you ain't going to really be interacting with me. You wait till then you get to the show. You get to the show, and I said the show, but you get to the house, the pajama party, and then you are now flirting with other people in front of my face. And then I give back to you what you gave to me, right? Now, it's immature. I'm not saying it's not immature. I want to make it very, very clear. It's not that it's immature, okay? All right? It's not that it's immature. I mean, it is immature, right? So I'm not saying that, right? And she's a woman is exactly why this is going to be a problem, because her being a woman doesn't mean anything. When you are doing something in that situation and you end up doing something like she was doing, you end up flirting on purpose, right? And then you come into a situation and the person also too is going to respond by giving you back what you gave wrongly. By the way, we don't agree with tit for tat. I'm only explaining the participant here. Tit for tat. Then you start crying because I gave you what you gave back. And you think I'm going, if I already feel like you were doing too much and I responded to that, I'm probably not going to be in a space to see these tears as being authentic, because in a situation when you were doing to hurt me, you weren't feeling that way, right? And when I gave you back what you gave me, I'm going to not look at it some type of way. Of course you're going to look at it some type of way. This is why I said that in that situation, unfortunately, the person's not going to look at tears in that particular way as, oh, she's hurt. No, because you would do what you were doing. You crying because you're crying because you're hurt, or you're crying because you couldn't do what you couldn't do what I did. And so now you're going to consider, does this person actually really care about me? Which is where he was going. And I'm not saying he's right, by the way. I'm, again, making it very clear. I'm making distinctions about what people are doing and saying, I'm not saying it's right. I'm more explaining the behavior in the situation, right? Sean is giving a better perspective in terms of how to handle. I am giving behavior in terms of what I'm seeing right in front of me, right? So in that situation, yeah, he's not going to look at those tears any particular way. But I think it's also unfair to say that has she cried several times? Well, no, because I'm looking at the context of the situation, right? Now, let's not pretend if we saw someone cry, if we do this, right? It doesn't take, let's be honest, Married at First Sight, when we saw Zach crying, it was we didn't have to wait even the second time. When it was a situation he was crying the first time, we said the situation doesn't match the crying. We were already feeling some type of way. The first time we saw him crying, it was like, this is a bit much for this situation. Why did you judge it that way, right? We all make judgments. So I'm not saying the situation.
Well, because he's a man, I think that's we judged him from that.
Yeah, so because she's also a woman, you're going to look at it as manipulative. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because women and men are different.
No, wait, pause. Because he's a man, you automatically judged it as when he's crying, it's too much. And I'm saying to you, if you take that approach, we also take the approach that when she's a woman, when she's crying, she's manipulative. Do you see how the judgments work on both sides?
No.
Okay,
it's not. That's not the FP thing.
No. You made a judgment. You've made a judgment from a perspective that when a man cries, we're going to judge it because he's doing too much. And I'm saying to you, well, then someone's also going to make a judgment because she's a woman and she's crying. It's manipulative. Because it's a poor judgment to make that when someone cries, but we didn't feel no way about judging it that way. We didn't judge it that way. We judged it the first time he started crying, when we measured what he was crying about, we didn't wait for 2-3 times. We knew it was coming. And it did happen, right? It came. What I'm saying to you is we made a judgment together, collective, that's two, right? And that was a bad season, I ain't gonna lie to you. We had some wars. We made a judgment collectively about those tears from a man's perspective, that when he cries, he's being soft. And I'm saying to you that there's also going to be a narrative about women, the same way you're making a judgment about a man, that's collectively being, when she cries, it's manipulative. Neither judgment is correct because it starts with a stereotype. It's not the fact that a man can't cry or men, whatever. It's the fact that we have a judgment and we have that we look at for both sexes. When a woman's crying, someone looks at it as, oh, she's being manipulative, when really she might not be. And that's why I'm agreeing with you. And I'm saying to you, when a man cries, we're going to look at it as he being soft, when it might not be. It might be a real situation. But it's based on the context of the situation. Because had he been crying about his mum passing away, would have never mentioned how he's crying too much. That's what I'm kind of initiating in that sense. Yeah, that's probably what I'm saying. But again, I can always be wrong, and that's my perspective. I'm trying to.
I just feel like you're eliminating the fact that he stoked the flames. You know what I'm saying? Like what she did, even for me, that would be highly embarrassing. I would be very embarrassed if I'm sitting there, and you've even mentioned it, right? If we're talking and then you just stop the conversation and start talking to somebody else, and not just start talking to somebody else, but now he became overly flirtatious with this other woman. Like, that's very embarrassing. So for me, like, where people are like, I don't know why she's crying. No, I probably would be very upset too. I might even shed a thug tear if a woman did that to me, because it's very embarrassing, especially when the conversation was at a point where she was relenting a little bit. Like, she was like, this is what I did do it, right? And then as timing would have it, you know, we're in a produced environment. So there was like the perfect storm for them to come in at that moment. And then for Maya to have that comment to him, and then him to get pulled in. Yeah. So it is emotional. I just don't want us to dismiss that part, because you have to say it wasn't like they were in the middle of an argument and then she just started crying. No, he escalated it up the ante and said, I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. And then he said, I'm going to show you what you was doing and why I was in my feelings all day watching you fix plates and flirt. So now I got something for you. So that's where it escalated the moment. And the tears were, if I had anything to say, a lot of triggering in that moment to drive the to drive her to be emotional.
That's fair. I can appreciate that context as well. Again, I don't disagree with that context, honestly. I don't disagree with that context at all. So I'm not going to say that's wrong at all. I'm just saying that I can see also another perspective. I can see that it can be manipulative, because if you're such a hard nut, why are you crying? That's my point. Like, it's like someone else can also see that perspective. I'm saying take into context and consideration, because we automatically, as soon as someone starts crying, did what Chaz did, which is, baby, why she's emotional? She's sad. No. She can also use that as a manipulative place. Our natural thing is to take whatever context we look at. So someone's gonna look at it as, well, we should go and cuddle her. Someone else looking at it as, well, I think she's looking manipulative. I'm playing the harder side of things by saying, let's look at it from the manipulative side of perspective, right? Because I think both of them are manipulative. So, you know what I mean? So for me personally, it's like, I'm gonna take that both of them are manipulating that situation, and both are playing the game and both trying to get their power in that place as well. So, yeah, you know. So I think, like I said, I like both perspectives, though, you know. But I think what you're really highlighting, and just to kind of round it up, I think what you're really highlighting is that in this scenario, there's a better way to handle things, right? There's a better way to handle things. So I think that's the greater care of conversation, right? So that is where you're focusing, and I agree with that perspective, that if we're talking about creating healthy dynamic of relationships, explaining who's doing what, whatever, taking that perspective where we're trying to make healthy relationships, there's a better way to handle. Irrespective of whether I feel it's manipulative or not, there's a better way to handle is what you're explaining. So I'm with you on that. You can have the final say and wrap it up in the in a benediction.
You got it. Well, you know, absolutely. And I think, you know, what this discussion proved is everybody deserves to be heard, right? And I think in relationships, when we think about how we resolve conflict, if we're truly looking to get to the bottom of it, everybody needs to be heard. You know, very, very important that we listen and we allow people to share their position before we make a judgment. Right? Because if we've got the story told and if the story's already written, then we won't be co-writers. And in relationships, we need to be co-writing our relationships and not writing biographies. Back to you, Coach.
Love that. Thank you very much, Sean, for that as well. And it sparked a really good conversation as well. And I think I'll be able to chop up some parts and hopefully people can decide what side they fall on and what place they take on as well. So thank you very much. That Felicia H as well. She said, great live, guys. Appreciate that. Cherry Redhead Poppin has been a member for the last 5 months. Thank you very much. She also sent us a super chat as well. Said, I'm loving this breakdown. Great perspective. You guys rock, Kojo and Sean. So I appreciate that as well. Felicia H has also been 5 months in the game, and we appreciate you also as well. So yeah, listen, audience, thank you so much for joining our conversation. It was a good back and forth between me and Sean. Please don't ever take it anyway. I know people are going to start going off like we were fighting. We disagree a lot like that, just to kind of get the conversation flowing. Sometimes I like to be antagonistic a little bit and take a little bit of a contrarian side, just to spice up the conversation a little bit as well. So, but yeah, honestly, great conversation as well. So we'll be back later on tonight because we have the super panel. So the guys will get to flesh out the rest of what's happened on Ready to Love as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys come through. So much love, much appreciation. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's much I wouldn't do. So be careful out there, guys. Even though I'm a changed man now. Thank you, Jesus.